That historic moment 40 years ago marked the very first land claim agreement signed north of 60, the Inuvialuit Final Agreement. It took more than a decade of bargaining. In the end, the Inuvialuit retained close to 100,000 square kilometers of land, including 13,000 kilometers with subsurface rights to oil, gas, and minerals. Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat on this, the 40th Inuvialuit Day. I'm Megan Roberts. Inuvik held its Inuvialuit Day celebrations today for a huge crowd. A community feast and cultural demonstrations were held at the rec complex.
Oh, they're hot. Just give it a minute.
Okay.
1 minute.
That's too long.
Okay.
One of them is Lordy, Lordy, look who's 40. Happy Inuvialuit Day, everybody, wherever you are. Take care and all the best.
And I like to see all the people that come in and try the traditional food and say it's good.
You should have more to eat than this. Look, they got lots of food down there.
Happy Inuvialuit Day.
I'm Gerald Iglangisak. My people know me as Jerry Lenny. I'm an Inuvialuit politician, and I'm very, very proud to be an Inuvialuit today. You can see all the people all dressed up, everybody hugging each other. It's just like the old days.
I am here at the culture station and we are combing hides and everybody's welcome to join. But yeah, this one comes out really well and it's what my grandparents used, so I still use it. And then it's culture, it's tradition, it's remembering who we are and where we're from and what a beautiful culture we have, and just honoring and celebrating it. And the fact that we we're able to do our final agreement 40 years ago. It's an amazing thing, and to celebrate it and be here with everybody, it's a great day. I love it.
Yellowknife held its own set of celebrations today. Delicious food, dancing, and traditional games took place at the multiplex. Some also took today to reflect on the anniversary. We spoke with Lucy Kaptana about what this day means for her.
Well, think back in history, 40 years when they signed the Inuvialuit Final Agreement in Tuktoyaktuk. I wasn't there, of course. I was still in high school. But I thought it was so significant, like 15 years of negotiation with the federal government, the hardships they endured, the time away from their family, their dedication, their sacrifice to seeing that negotiations come through, and then we end up with a final agreement. I just want to mention that, there's not too many negotiators left that signed the Inuvialuit Final Agreement. So I want to do a shout out to former Premier and former IRC Chair and CEO Nellie Cornier, who's in Tuk today celebrating with people in the community.
Lisa Semler, one of 2 MLAs for Inuvik, also honored those who helped settle the land claim today in the Legislative Assembly. She used her member's statement to mark the anniversary and shared some childhood memories of the negotiations. Take a listen.
I want to take this time to honor the many people who have worked together to make this agreement a reality 40 years ago today. Many of those signatories to the Inuvialuit Final Agreement now passed on, but their families live on and thrive. The Inuvialuit people continue to be stewards of these lands, passing on their culture and traditions to generations to come. Mr. Speaker, the Committee of Original Peoples Entitlement Board, there was late Peter Green, who was the president and from Paulatuk. The late Charles Halgak, he was the vice president and from Sax Harbor. The late Sam Ratty, director from Inuvik. The late Billy Day, a director from Inuvik. The late Eddie Grubin, director from Tuktoyaktuk. The late Bertha Rubin, director from Paulatuk. We still have with us Annie C. Gordon, a director from McClavic, and Elsie Klingenberg, a director from Ulahaktuk. But we cannot forget those negotiators that negotiated this agreement, and who we still have with us today, Nellie Cornier from Tuktoyaktuk, the late Andy Carpenter, Sax Harbor, the late Robert Kuptana, Ulahaktuk, the late Nelson Green from Paulatuk, the late Mark Noxana from Tuktoyaktuk, Rini Airy of Aklavik, who's still with us today, the late Agnes Semler of Inuvik, and their chief negotiator, Bob Delory, who I remember always in that room with his pipe. Mr. Speaker, I can say that my political career may have been instilled in me at a very young age, but I didn't know it back then. What I now realize is the meetings that I witnessed in this small room, 2 doors down from my house, when I was about 6 years old, with no table in that room, just chairs, where they sat around with federal leaders or federal negotiators like a sharing circle. This room included these past leaders where they were ensuring and securing the future of the Inuvialuit people. So once again, I congratulate them on their 40 years. Kwanaini, Mr. Speaker.
You heard Lisa Semler speak about all the people that made this agreement and this day possible. Tonight, we reach back into our archives to bring you some of those voices. Here's Marie Wilson reporting in 1984 on the signing of the Inuvialuit Final Agreement.
This is springtime in the Western Arctic. The local Inuit, called Inuvialuit, are a marine people. The Beaufort Sea is their highway to furs, their lifeline to food.
Spring is like heaven. After a long winter, many, many dark days, when the sun begins to shine again, everybody has to go.
They go goose hunting. In other seasons, they do other things. It's always been that way. Time has changed some things, but not destroyed them. Plastic is now sometimes used for traditional drums, a symbol perhaps of the determination of the Inuvialuit to make the changes around them suit their needs. That's how they've approached their land claims. After 14 years of hard bargaining, the Inuvialuit organization, COPE, has a deal which recognizes their ownership of an area about the third the size of Ontario. The 2,500 people here traditionally used about 2.5 times that much. They're to have a say on any development that takes place on those lands. They'll also own some gravel and sand. On 6% of their land, they'll have rights to oil, gas, and minerals. But they had to choose lands with no proven reserves. This is far less than the royalties COPE had originally hoped to get from all resources throughout their area. And in this Beaufort region, estimated to be very rich in oil and gas, some feel this is unfair. But the COPE negotiators believe their well-invested cash will give them the in they need in petroleum and related businesses. Their regional and community corporations will manage the money. In today's terms, it's worth about $90 million. The Inuvialuit will also have guaranteed hunting and trapping rights and will advise the territorial and federal governments on wildlife management. It's a package which 2/3 of all eligible voters approved.
The groundwork is done. Now it's up to the younger generation to get busy, get education, training, and take over.
In a new building in Tuktoyaktuk this week, people came to celebrate a new beginning.
For all of us here today, this afternoon, we will all be a witness to and be participants in a moment in history.
The Minister of Indian Affairs, John Munro, came too. His speech was well polished from the practice he's had racing for next week's Liberal leadership nomination. He spoke more emotionally than ever before in the North.
Through the economic benefits that they've received under COPE, they can and will participate equally with the rest of Canada. And that there is a future for the North, and there is a future for the Native people in the North. What a marvelous achievement that is. And what a happy day this must be for all of you.
With the midnight sun of the Arctic summer, the days here have no beginning. But this week, people were celebrating what they called the dawn of a new day and a new life for the Inuvialuit.
The celebration here is because the long wait for a final agreement is over at last. But will there now be more waiting before this land claim becomes Canadian law? That's what people here are wondering. John Munro, the minister and the Liberal leadership candidate, badly wants to get the legislation through the House, but he simply can't guarantee that'll happen before a federal election is called. Marie Wilson for CBC News, Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories.
And in case you are wondering, the Western Arctic Nunavut Claims Settlement Act was assented to on June 28, 1984. That is well before the federal election of that year. A Yukon man has pleaded guilty to manslaughter for selling drugs to a woman who fatally overdosed. It's the first case of its kind in the Yukon. Jackie Hong explains.
Jared Skookum initially pleaded not guilty, but that changed in Whitehorse Territorial Court last week. According to an agreed statement of facts, Skookum sold drugs to Stephanie Pai in April 2022. Her daughter found her dead in their hotel room later that day. Pai was 36. A forensic pathologist concluded Pai's death was caused by acute fentanyl and atizolam intoxication. The latter is a drug similar to Valium. Skookum is the first drug dealer in the Yukon to be charged with manslaughter in relation to a fatal overdose. In court, the 34-year-old's lawyer said he was also a user and had experienced multiple overdoses himself. Skookum will be sentenced in August. The Crown and Defense are asking that his sentence be the time he's already spent in jail, followed by 3 years probation. Jackie Hong, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Modular homes could be coming to the high Arctic as the Kikitani Inuit Association looks to build 21 homes as part of a pilot project. Construction was supposed to start in Grise Fjord, Resolute Bay, Arctic Bay, Clyde River, and Pond Inlet this summer. That's now delayed because construction costs have gone up 60% since last fall, forcing QIA to go back to square one and look at modular homes instead.
These will be affordable rentals for employed Inuit. I say affordable, but they're going to be more expensive than social housing units. We don't have government budgets. We won't be able to subsidize the houses the way that government can, but they'll be cheaper than what markets are charging.
The project is part of the $134 million QIA got from the 2022 federal budget for Inuit-specific investments. Nunavut will be without a CT scanner for 6 weeks starting this weekend. The current one is nearing its end of life and being replaced. On average, the Kikitani General Hospital does close to 600 CT scans every 6 weeks. For now, any non-emergency scans will have to wait until the new machine is ready, or where possible, an X-ray or ultrasound will be used instead. Patients requiring an emergency scan will have to be medevaced to Ottawa at a cost of roughly $40,000 per patient.
The big thing for us is if that scanner decides to break down and it's not repairable, we're looking at probably 3 or 4 months of downtime before we have a functional CT scanner. Because, we've been working on this project for probably about 6-7 months now to try and get the logistics of getting the machine up here.
The hospital recently got its first MRI machine, but it only does PET scans. The vet says the new CT scanner will provide full body results faster than the current scanner and expose people to less radiation.
You promised me that you won't look back. There's gonna come a time you'll feel the darkness. You don't let them win.
How does someone just disappear? How can I be in love with something that was never there?
We are not a dying people. We are here and we are speaking.
I had a vision that I one day would be free again.
It is my right, it is my privilege, and it is my heritage.
Tēm kemuksak palilawak ta aula yina lepok kugyang mulu amalo kok biu yamon tinga diwaling mulu pangolo asyang miu muna toy mina daile ta panga kemuksak palilawak sumo mutai ma buat taling ni pilariu lak sunga Inuit amichwalu walang mata.
When we see Team Canada on the world stage, we're witnessing pure greatness. What we don't see is their struggle. We don't see Maggie McNeil navigating her anxiety, Shea Gilgis-Alexander getting cut from his high school team, or Ellie Black hearing she's just too old to compete. What we don't see makes us who we are. We're all bravely facing the odds in our lives, and our bravery is our victory.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes your world.
All right.
Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now. We are just approaching Gaza.
With local CBC Radio 1 Live to connect us closer to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want, where you want, on the CBC News app. Download for free.
Special 80th anniversary ceremonies began this morning at the Canadian War Cemetery in Normandy, France. The event honored those who were killed on D-Day. More than 2,000 Canadian soldiers are buried at the cemetery near Juno Beach. The Canadian delegation on hand this year includes 13 Second World War veterans. The Allied invasion of occupied France on June 6, 1944, marked the beginning of the end of the war in Europe. A new tribute was unveiled in France today, honoring the Royal Regina Rifles. That Canadian regiment stormed the beaches that day with many Indigenous soldiers among its ranks. Julia Wong has that story.
This statue commemorating the Royal Regina Rifles was unveiled here today. Now, that regiment was one of the first regiments to land on Juno Beach on D-Day, and more than 100 of its members died on D-Day. But there's never really been anything to mark or honor this particular regiment until now. This is a bronze statue that's 2.5 meters tall, and it depicts a soldier carrying his rifle, carrying his gear, ready to storm the beach with a look of determination on his face that's probably mixed in with a little bit of fear. The ceremony was overseen by Princess Anne, and she is the regiment's colonel-in-chief. She spoke with members of the regiment and then thanked the regiment as a whole for their service and their sacrifice on D-Day.
The statue unveiled today will forever help tell the story of loyalty, of bravery, and of duty. I also hope it will remind future generations to never forget the sacrifice and determination of the Regina Rifles.
I was here 30 years ago as a young rifleman, as a parade participant at the 50th anniversary of the D-Day landings, and I noticed, as did all of us, that there was just a small, tiny plaque. Our regiment is full of working class individuals and farmers and Indigenous people. It didn't have a lot of money after the war, and there wasn't a really great symbol of what happened and what they did.
Big crowds gathered to mark the occasion, some carrying French flags and others carrying Canadian flags. And it was a moving day for those whose loved ones were a part of the regiment 80 years ago. In particular, one Saskatchewan First Nation that had 6 members storm Juno Beach and only 4 came back.
20% of the Regina Rifles were First Nations from different First Nations in Saskatchewan. 6 were members of my nation. They didn't have to, but they went.
It's quite emotional day. It's quite touching. Quite frankly, the last time a member of my family was in France, people were shooting at him. So it makes it quite chilling when we went to the beach yesterday to see what they faced, the distance they crossed, and what they did to secure our freedoms for my generation and my kids' generation.
The regiment said that there's a specific reason this statue is here. They say there are lots of monuments on Juno Beach, but this particular community is how far the regiment got into France on D-Day. Julia Wong, CBC News, 2MU, France.
It is our duty to ensure that we and future generations do not forget their service and their sacrifice in replacing tyranny with freedom.
King Charles and members of the royal family were also on hand in Portsmouth for commemorations today. Dame Helen Mirren hosted the ceremony, which included dozens of British veterans of D-Day, along with hundreds of local school children. Samba K Park in Yellowknife came alive with excitement today as hundreds of students gathered for Rivers to Oceans Day.
So like I said, those are dragonfly nymphs, immature dragonflies.
The event helps students learn about things like fish dissection, water safety, and how belugas navigate using sound. And there were some water-themed activities. It's incredibly popular. This year's program filled up in less than half an hour, with 285 students signing up to take part.
The idea is to bring kids from grade 1 and grade 5 out to the park, get them outside, get them moving, and talking about water.
Today's events were hosted by Ecology North, the GNWT, and Fisheries and Oceans Canada. The goal of the program is to instill a lasting relationship between students and the water. And some Yukoners put their relationship with water to the test on an epic canoe journey in Alaska. After 5 days on the water, a group paddling to Juneau has arrived, just in time for celebration. The Tlingit Cultural Gathering starts today. People from the Yukon made their way to the Alaskan capital by canoe. Now, the paddlers say the trip was hard work, but it was a good time.
And people got to eat and share and camp and all of those things and share music and songs again and, you know, check all the gear and go through stuff. So, and the paddlers were amazing with the sailing. The wind was good. The weather was good, although it would rain sometimes. It was just, the spirits were so high that everybody just dug in and kept digging in and going and going and going.
The next few days will be full of art, theater, and dancing. 1,600 dancers actually will be taking part. And for the first time, the Yukon's Dakaquan dancers will be the lead group. The Carcross Tagish First Nation is also hosting a celebration watch party. You can watch live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Yukon time at Hashugun-Hidi in Carcross. Iqalumiut got the chance to learn more about Nunavut's future heritage center last night. The center will be a home for the 140,000 artifacts the government of Nunavut currently stores down south. The hope is that the center will allow families to find artifacts from their ancestors.
Right now, majority of Inuit don't have access to this collection, and this Heritage Center will help reclaim our traditional knowledge.
The center will include different spaces for exhibitions, workshops, and performing arts. Not everyone is happy with the current proposed design, though.
I was a bit heartbroken about the inside, which is very square and very old school colonized brain thinking.
The project is still at an early stage and plans could change. There's a lot to be decided, like how to protect the structure from permafrost damage. It's expected to open in the next 7 years and cost an estimated $150 million. It's not clear who will be paying that bill. Excitement is high in Hay River tonight. After a 4-year hiatus, competitive track and field is back in the South Slave region. The CBC's Carla Ulrich is in Hay River tonight. Carla, what's going on there right now?
Well, the track and field is back. You know, it was canceled for 2 years because of COVID-19 and then a massive evacuation the next year due to a flood. And then last year, organizers were gearing up for the event in May when the first of 2 evacuations happened because of the wildfire. And so people are back on the track after 4 long years and they are happy.
Yeah, I can imagine that people are really excited. It was a topic in the NWT legislature today as well. What are people in Hay River most excited about with this coming back?
I think people are just really excited to see their friends again. And I'm talking about students, teachers, and parents, and just seeing their peers from across the territory. And also just getting outside to compete with their peers. You know, it's been a long time coming, and it's something they were really looking forward to.
Yeah, it's always nice to connect with people across the territory when you get a chance. What can we expect over the next few days then, Carla?
Well, hopefully not rain. because I didn't bring my rain jacket. But I think it's going to be an intense 3 days. From what I'm seeing, everyone looks pretty competitive and they are ready to go. And hopefully we'll see some records broken over the next couple of days.
And Carla, I understand that you were also intensely competitive and a track athlete yourself. Tell me about that.
Well, I used to do shot put.
Wow.
I was pretty good at it. Yeah, my form.
Yes.
I don't know if that's still good or not. And unbelievably, people would be shocked to hear that I actually used to do long distance. Something I could not do anymore.
Carla, good for you. Well, hopefully we'll see you out on the field there, even just on the sides, kind of doing what you used to do.
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone keep an eye out.
I'll do a couple laps.
Everyone keep an eye out for Carla. Carla, we're also hearing there could be snow on Friday, so you might have needed both your parka and your raincoat. I'm so sorry to break that news to you, but we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, I'm glad I didn't bring either of those jackets with me. So
we'll keep an eye out to make sure you're doing those laps to stay warm. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. We leave you tonight with a look at what's happening down at the Hay River track meet. I hope everyone's having a great time at the competitions, especially Carla doing those laps. See you tomorrow.
That same woman from the SEC keeps calling. Can I give her your number? No.
Michael Lazaridis, want to come and answer some questions?
Why is the SEC looking at us? I'm sure it's nothing. Yeah.
I'm just wondering how you convinced all these engineers from around the world to come all the way to Canada. Do you know what the sentence is for multi-million-dollar stock fraud?
I did not know what my future would look like.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I was so excited when they said I got to do an interview with you.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
You promised me that you won't look back. You don't let them win.
I had a vision that I one day would be free again.
We are not a dying people. We are here and we are speaking.
Moments that are so on trend right now. Ticket pricing, artificial intelligence, being a Swiftie. Commotion, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.